Welcome to another episode of the Coaching Collective podcast, the community by coaches for coaches. Now, here are your hosts, coaches Ed Hamilton and Paul Blackford.
Okay, last week you had a question for me
Yeah.
regarding client retention and talking particularly about one client, which was Max.
Yeah.
This week, a couple of other things have been popping up, and I have a question for you in regards to something that's probably a little bit more practical that we haven't dived too much into at the start here. And this conversation today, I want to be a little bit more around how you go about packaging your sessions. So your offerings to your clients, your PTs, potential PTs.
Yeah.
We obviously work in the same gym. We talk about a lot of this stuff, diving into a little bit more of the business side of things today. Recently, the sort of evolution of your session packages and your offerings have changed.
Yeah.
And I would really like to dive into that for coaches out there that are just getting started and a little unsure as to how much do I charge, how do I package this, what's option A, what maybe software do I use, what like all those questions that can come up in that space.
There's a lot we can cover here.
Does that mean you're going to be talking for a long time?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
So what I might do, I might actually just talk through the evolution of my packages for Southwest Fitness and how that came about. If you listen back to one of our earlier podcasts, I can't remember which one, but I think it was the intro potentially where I was talking about coming from the IT industry. And so I spent a good proportion of my early days working in a whole other industry and made the switch over to health and fitness. And you take that on in a very traditional sense in that you do your Cert 3 and your Cert 4, and there was a progression for me through that. But I've always had an entrepreneurial mind, always really enjoying the business side of whatever I've done. And that's probably what led me into the sales side of information technology. Moving into the health and fitness space, I don't think there was a doubt that I was going to be running my own gig at some stage and pushing into the business side of that, trying to think about smart ways to make that a profitable operation, but at the same time, upholding the values of trying to give what we can to our clients. How does the client get the most out of what we can provide them in those packages and sessions? It started very simply with that one-on-one space. I can actually remember the first time that I moved to a small group structure, which actually wasn't off my back. It was off one of my clients making a request that he could bring a friend along. And it was actually Frank and Gary. I think it was Frank Norton asked if his brother-in-law, it was probably the other way around. Actually, it was Gary asked if his brother-in-law could come along. That was Frank. And that's the birth of the small group. So it happened organically. However, 7 years on, one of the primary structures that I have for my packages is small group, or it's actually morphed into what I'm having a bit of a play with at the moment, which is called semi-private personal training. And there is a bit of a difference. The organic group sessions, they literally come to a single program class it's like a class structure. So a single planned class structure for almost like GPP for that group of people. So I had that group of people in mind when I was programming, and as those groups grew, that started to become a little bit more diluted and a little bit more diluted for the individual. But I did set a limit early on. I didn't want those to go beyond 4 people. And I've actually stuck to that limit through to today. That's more so a personal choice in regards to what I'm able to handle as far as providing enough supervision and enough attention to each person within that 45-minute period. Today, I will run, it's called semi-private personal training sessions of up to 4 people in a 45-minute session. And each of those people receive an individualized program in regards to what they're going to perform on that day. Majority of the time, there's a lot of overlap in regards to the structure and the focus for the day. It's a lower body pulling day or it's an upper body pushing day. But the purpose for what they're actually doing is individualized for what their needs are.
So you've obviously doubled from the get-go, like you said, starting off in 1-1, then moving to like obviously smaller group classes and private, semi-private, and now capping your semi-privates at 4. I guess for the listeners, again, if we've got a younger crew or even people that have been in it, like maybe run through from that progression of 1-on-1 to 1-on-2 to 1-on-3 to stopping at 1-on-4, like the benefits, pros and cons from service providing to financials to like all those aspects as to what you saw were the benefits and cons from doing each of those. So start off with cool 1-on-1, start there and then make your way down to the way.
Yeah.
Because you also do online programming in those sessions for where you are now. I know that you also offer, even though you see your clients in person, they do also get programming outside of the gym as well. So like what's involved, again, just to give people a little bit more of a practical takeaway from these conversations as to go, oh, cool, I've never really thought of implementing that sort of stuff. I always just thought, oh, okay, PT 1-on-1 or that's it.
Yeah. So when I started the whole fitness, like Southwest Fitness gig, it was 1-on-1 personal training. That was it. So a person walks in the gym, they see me over 45 minutes, and I did play with 30 minutes. I did play with an hour. 45 is the sweet spot. That's where I've stayed, and that's where my sessions are at the moment. I don't see them changing. 1-on-1 gives that person your undivided attention for that period of time, their goals. And I had clients doing 3 of those a week, all the way down to 1 per week, even less frequent than that, 1 per fortnight. But they've got you for that time. And within that space of time, captured audience, one person, just their body, there's a lot of value in having that attention. They're not going to go into a group class and get that. They're not going to go into a semi-private session and get that. So there's a lot of value in that. I think that's important for you guys as coaches to take on board, especially if you're new. We are so notorious for undercharging our services, especially when we start, because we don't realize how much value we're providing that person from the get-up. And there's a lot to learn. We're 10 years in, 7 years in, we're still learning every single day. So much to learn. But there's not an end point where you go, oh, I'm going to charge more when this happens. That's not it. That person has your undivided attention for 45 minutes. That is, you are theirs. You're watching their body in a way that no one else, and even they can't understand their body moving at the moment. And the knowledge that you have, wherever it's at, is going to be something that they can't provide themselves. So that service is really valuable. It's actually really valuable. It's the best way that I've heard, and it's a number of places that I've heard this from, but the best way to approach how to set your pricing is to actually look at what you want your business to, what type of life you want your business to provide you. So work backwards from there. What does you as a PT, as a business, need to provide you and your family, or as an individual? There's a number on that. I came from another industry. I had an idea about what I was earning in that industry. I used that as a guide stick for, okay, my yardstick is that. I want to try and hit that number. And so working backwards from there, I was able to determine how many clients I want to train per week in regards to what other time commitments I have. And then I was able to determine what those sessions need to be worth and in order to provide that. And I'm saying this, I sound very confident when I say this. I did not do that from the get-up. That was years in that I came to that realization, and you'll be exactly like that as well if you're just starting out. And if you jump onto, I'm just going to give this plug once because there's so much of what I'm talking about that's actually reiterated and delivered in a really understandable and succinct way via the Romcast. Dan Williams from Range of Motion does an absolutely amazing job with some of his blogs and podcasts in the business space for PTs and other health and fitness professionals, so coaches and gym owners and whatnot, and it's super solid.
The Business of Fitness or Romcast and Fitness?
Oh, so yeah, Business of Fitness podcast is probably the primary one I'm talking about. He's got some other projects as well, podcasts and whatnot. But yeah, just listening to that recently, and especially a couple of his most recent posts podcasts on the combination of different models. And it was super cool to hear that what I've done quite organically in combining different models of delivering the service that we deliver he's put a lot of thought into taking all the different models that he can think of in the health and fitness space and actually overlay overlapping, some of them to create new models. And I feel like that's what I've done at Southwest Fitness. I've actually fairly organically started with one-on-one PT, individualized PT, and grown it into a hybrid of one-on-one PT, semi-private, small groups, and online. And that the systems that I use to manage all of those actually sit and overlap.
So I guess on that, it's a good leading point from, okay, one-on-one, undivided attention, they're all there, they're all yours for the 45 minutes. Cons on the other side of that is reach. It's capacity, right? You're going to be limited by time and the amount of people that you can see in a week, depending on where you're at in your journey. Like for me, starting off, I was 20, all the time in the world.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah.
Go for gold. And again, not to plug too much of it, but working under Dan and working at Rob, and the way that those systems were set up there for us as trainers to have success was the programming side of things was taken care of by Dan, through My Fitness Bio, which was an auto-generated programming system that Dan had created that would give our clients what they need to be doing when they came in based off strengths and weaknesses and everything like that. And what that allowed us to do, or what I found that was really beneficial for me, this is going to be, obviously very different for everyone else not having that onboarding, but it allowed us to focus on the session, the craft, the movement, and the different experience of, cool, I just got to focus on that. And I still remember coming down when I moved to the movement, and I said to Cal, you need to teach me how to program. Like, I'll teach you how to do whatever movement, but I need you to help me in that sense. But what I mean by that is, I was young, and it was just, I could go. I wasn't limited by other things. I was doing, I think, at some point, 120 sessions a month.
Mm.
The scalability of that is just based on how much time I have, and which I have a lot of.
Yeah.
So as I've gone through the years of being in this thing, the thing that's becoming more limited is my time.
Yes.
Doing other things, starting a family, having kids, don't have that capacity to really think as to where you go. So obviously, coming back to more of your model, one-on-one, pros, high level, high attention, can dive into it. Cons, sort of scalability, right? Like, you're limited primarily by time, not having any sort of other sources of income coming in.
Yeah.
You've moved to more like a 1-on-2 or a 1-on-3, and started dipping the toe in online stuff. So did you go into more semi-private before you started online? And similar sort of things, what were the pros, what were the cons of going into, or what are the pros, what are the cons of going into semi-private?
I guess the small groups that came together organically were actually quite similar individuals. And so at that point, it was easier to manage single programming for multiple people because of that similar goals. However, as the idea of the semi-private grew, as in there was opportunity to have quite a different individual come into a group of, say, over 40 lads. So I might have a younger athlete come in and want to train in that time slot with the over 40 lads. Then that started a different thought pattern for how I was going to deliver that, still give them what they want and need, and same with the lads. Yeah, the progression for the small group to semi-private, it came from, I guess, the demand from my clients and what they needed. I did do a little bit of research to try and figure out whether there were other places out there doing it. I did find some facilities that's solely focus on semi-private training. So everyone gets their program and they come in during these time slots and they've got some visibility over that.
So maybe just clarifying, small group class is the same program for everyone. They all come in and they're doing the same thing.
Semi-private is
personal training. They've got their
individual program. Yeah. So that's really the big difference that I've noted. Potentially size differences in those groups, but like I've said, I've stuck at 4 because I feel like a person coming into semi-private personal training is looking for the advantages of a personal trainer, which is that a focused attention, with the advantages of being in a small group or a group environment. So there's a community aspect to that. The groups that I train actually are quite tight knit. Even the new people coming in have really settled in well to the environment and the routine, because they get to see those people on the regular who are in that semi-private group, and they really do bounce off each other and really enjoy training together.
Yeah, that's definitely something over the last bit that I've really enjoyed seeing from you, being next year to rigs and watching your guys come in and having their the Southwest community of people coming in and like hitting their sessions together, and it's great. Like the banter, the jokes, like it provides a lot of value in the gym,
Yes.
and for them. And I think, as we've spoken about before, it can be quite a big, daunting thing coming in, and just like having a little network of people. Like you said, you rock up and it's your 6:30 slot. You rock up with your crew, and almost like if someone doesn't rock up, it's damn, like,
Yeah, where are they?
yeah, it's like kind
Yeah,
of waiting.
absolutely.
But I also think that you've done that really well in regards to, maybe we can dive into a little bit of how you've gone from one-on-one to the semi-private, but you also onboard your people. And so it's not just like new client, new onboarding, straight into semi-private,
No.
right? You take the time to go, okay, you're going to go on this process of like, we're going to do one-on-one. So you still have that. Like, it's a really intricate system. And I guess I'm hammering a lot of this is on Paulie today because my system's relatively simple. I'm just still in the one-on-one space. I'm high level. Like you said, the full 45 minutes I have is on that person and their thing. So I want to expose some different thoughts here for some coaches to think about. But yeah, let's get back to that. So you have a new onboarding, the client comes in, and then run me through that process as to how someone goes from starting with you to being in semi-private, and then either the stuff after that, and we can dive into the remote stuff.
So a lot of when someone's interested in training with me, I start talking about the different style packages I have straight up. So there are solo slots, time slots that I have for one-on-one. And I obviously talk to them about the semi-private personal training as well, just so that they're aware of what the differences are between those and what to expect if they like the idea. The other primary driver is time slots. Organically, where those semi-private personal training time slots have ended up is in peak times. So it's the earliest time slots of the day, because people want those before work. They're really popular, and so that's another driver. I guess the thing that needs to overlap is the person who's coming into the semi-private personal training. They need to suit that style of training. It's not for everybody. And I have clients I still train one-on-one who I've offered that service to, and they've said no, because it's just not for them. And that's fine. Absolutely, perfectly okay. But those time slots, for me as a business owner and from a profitability perspective, that is a good option for me to have 4 people training at once in that one time slot. And so my preference is to have people moving into that. But what I want to make sure of is that they're not just landing in there and like, what do I do? And the other main thing that we need to be careful of in that situation is that there's not one person drawing all of the attention because they're so green and new. And so that onboarding process is really important. So the structure I have is that a person actually comes into a solo session for a period of time, especially if they're trained or have a really low training age. They just need to get a base level of knowledge and understanding of things like, what does programming look like? What are the fundamental movements that I'm going to see in my programming? How does the flow of the session go? All my sessions flow the same way. So when I run them through a solo one-on-one, it's the same flow, 15-minute blocks that we approach to achieve what we're going to achieve that day. It's the same in the semi-private. They're going to hit 3 15-minute blocks. There's a purpose for each 15-minute block. They start to get used to the structure so that I don't have to deal with teaching them the structure or showing them the structure once they get into those sessions. So there's a little bit more autonomy. They become a little bit more self-sufficient, and that's worked really well. A little bit of an experiment this morning. There was a new person who came in literally fresh into a semi-private personal training session, and it was tough. There was a lot of attention on them, and the other 2 people in that session were doing really well, actually, making sure that they were getting through their program. And they're relatively green as well. So for the amount of time that they've been training in the gym, they did really well. I'm a little bit averse to that. Once again, there's opportunity for that person to be there, and I briefed that person on the expectation in those sessions first. They're aware that time is shared time. So they're not paying for a full solo session. They're paying a lower rate for that access to that session and shared
So
attention.
not all eyes on them.
Correct.
There's going to be there's heads up. There's going to be some times when I might be getting you to move, and I might be heading over here, and I'm got eyes on someone else. But at least it's all like nice and clear. I actually did see that session again this morning. It was good. And one thing I would say is the continual development of yourself as a coach. Same thing. Problem solve faster. So it's like you had it moving as we do as the coaches, like next to each other. You just kind of look out as to what's going on. And I'm like, oh, a new guy in the group with Chris and Kate. And I was like, all right, I should, and I'm not saying I'm sitting there not watching my client, but I was like,
I saw you.
I was like, oh, all right, I gotta see how Paulie goes. But, because we've been working together on some stuff and seeing how you implement it, but really well and moving well and picking things up well. And I think it is really important that, again, we're talking about the business side of things, but that guy was also able to feel comfortable in there because of the quality of the coaching that you were able to provide and the solutions to the problems that you were seeing quicker.
Yeah.
You see a movement fault, correct it, he picked it up well, and it's cool. That can be an opportunity that he can actually integrate in versus maybe not necessarily knowing what you're looking at. Then you've got 3 bodies in a class and it's all a bit like, there's a lot of things going on. And sort of start to feel overwhelmed. Yeah. And then it did really just come down to both of those, like having a good structure, clear explanation of what the experience is going to be like, but then also being able to still provide the value in that because of your ability as a coach.
Yeah. There's a few things I want to say just around that, in that your onboarding process is actually, it's a really good model for, I know you spoke about it before, you dumbed it down. Oh, just it is, and it's just one person. But
today's about Paul. Today's not about me.
It's important for me because it's actually a framework that I want to apply to all my clients, no matter if they're in groups or solos or online. It's a framework that actually is super beneficial to solving that problem faster. And I guess when got my business hat on and I'm approaching these new business models, the systems in the back of my mind still align with what I'm hoping to achieve there, solve that problem faster. And the more I learn in that space, and this is the plug for our current lecture that's around hip function and squat mechanics, guys. If you haven't seen it, check it out, because that was actually the thing that helped me the most this morning. Was we had a squat day, and I was seeing something on this guy that I hadn't seen before, as in I don't see regularly. It was a very different mechanic, but it was the understanding of how the hip functions and actually how it needs to function with the rest of the body from that lecture that actually fed into me being able to solve that problem and get him moving better. Those processes are really important for me to continue to work on filtering into even small group sessions where I don't have that very dialed in one-on-one. There's enough there to have a really valuable transaction with each and every one of the people in there, because you're solving something fast. It's like, understand the movement, make this change, understand the function of the body, make this change. And that works so well. Like, that's really good.
Yeah. You go. I think talking about now, like, obviously one-on-one today is a bit more practical, like how there are so many ways that you can run your business. Maybe on that, whilst we're on this topic, like we talked about how you would onboard someone similar to me. I had a separate session for my initial consults. Do you run like a different day? You invite someone in, you meet them, or do you do it all over emails? Or how do you communicate with someone in regards to they send you a text or they send you an email? You've got your systems. I think it's also important to maybe talk about that, like cool ones, semi-private, there's online coaching, there's all these different fingers and pies that you can have. Yeah. But also for new people out there, how do I get people? How do people get me, or how do they contact me? Maybe let's dive into that. Just
majority of my new clients are coming in via referral. Okay. So they'll either get my number or I'll be given theirs. And the communication generally starts via text or other social media. Then from there, I will forward them to my PT Minder front page. So PT Minder is an app that I use to manage scheduling and finance. So the financials for the business. But from there, you can set up packages. So I have all of my solo, semi-private personal training online packages available to purchase via that portal. And then the client purchases, or the new client purchases the one that they're interested in, the very first thing that they get when they log in or when they purchase that and have a login for PT Minder is a pre-exercise screening form. Integrated into that, I ask all the lifestyle questions. What are your goals? How long have you been training? What other movement do you do? All the bits, and I'm happy to share those questions with anyone if they're interested. After that, we'll make an appointment for their first session. So it is a 45-minute session. My communication to them about that session is it's a very low impact from a movement perspective session. I run through load versus capacity, and depending on the client and the situation, there might be an injury, or they might have a very specific goal that's outside of I'm getting old and I need to do some movement. So dialing into an event or something like that, then we start sticking a little bit more with that. But very quickly within that first session, I move on to some movement assessment work. So I want to see how they're moving, and I typically start with hips as the primary. Depends if the injury is, or once again, depends what the situation is.
Yeah.
That's that first session.
Okay.
From there, I start structuring programming. So it's a lot of data collection in that first intro.
A lot of yours is done pre coming into that first session. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So I have a really good idea from that questionnaire.
Yeah.
What's already coming through the door.
Yeah.
And I base their answers. So I base what we do off their answers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then also just in regards to maybe some more of that back end stuff, we both use the programming software of CoachRx. So if you want to dive into maybe that as well.
So all of my programming for all of my sessions, semi-private, in person and online, all go into CoachRx. So every single client I have has an account in CoachRx. The semi-private clients do and don't use it. The ones that do get a lot more out of the session because they're very aware of what their programming is and how to approach it, how it's written, extra notes that I put in there, and there's always feedback going into there. So when they do that, they get much more out of the session.
Yeah.
Some of my in-person clients are hybrid, so they do online programming as well.
Yeah.
So they absolutely use it because that's how they get their sessions for the day, each day. Obviously, all of my online clients use it because that's how we deliver the sessions. And even some of my one-on-ones use it. The one-on-ones do lean on me a lot more to rock up to the session with the programming sorted, and they just do what they're told.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we'll maybe leave a couple of the links down at the bottom of the Spotify, just by CoachRx, PT Minder. Just a couple of things for you guys to maybe actually look into and take away for your own business structures, if you are like looking at starting up or looking at improving. Because I know for a while we use TrueCoach for all of our programming, but lacked a little bit of the additional stuff regarding, payments and stuff. Like TrueCoach wasn't even that; it was just a purely platform for programming, which was great at the time. But then, like you said, that you do have multiple things going on. Ideally, as we've spoken about, and I know Pex who do CoachRx, it's their thing that are doing that, are looking at integrating in like the whole PT Minder system
with
scheduling, everything. So that would
I'd love to see that. I bet.
So we don't have to pay for PT Minder, CoachRx.
I don't mind paying for PT Minder because it's a great tool. So I'd love OPEX and PT Minder to get together and sort something out, because those two apps together would just be amazing.
I think also that's a good point to touch on regarding what Paulie was talking about at the start, which is the value of your session.
Yeah.
As a business,
talking about
I'm talking about
expenses.
I'm talking about expenses, right? So it's not just your time. What Paulie was talking about there. My clients get programming. My clients get this. My clients get this software that I'm using.
Yeah.
My clients get all these additional things that are incorporated in the business structure.
Yeah.
And so you, as a young, coach, you need to take all of that into consideration. It's definitely something that, like you said, from starting and me being younger, you're so passionate. You just want to help people. You want them to get all of your information, and you want to help with all their problems for a dime. And that's good. That's fine. Run that. But then definitely something, even for myself within the last couple of years, has been looking at, as for me, life expenses grow, mortgage, kids. It's like you got to knuckle down and be like, all right, at the end of the day, this is my business. I still need to make a living. I still need to make sure I can pay for all the things that I need to pay for.
Yeah.
And so just taking into consideration on both ends. And outside of that, expenses that is kind of coming into what you're working on and that you're able to provide on your clients as well.
Yeah.
But yeah,
and I think my business, Southwest Fitness, has gone ahead in leaps and bounds whenever I've had a significant system automation. And I talk about simple things like, for a very long time, I was texting each of my clients reminders about their sessions coming up, and it literally got to the point where Don, my wife's like, this has to stop. We need literally all of Sunday sending everyone out their schedule for the week. And surely there's a system that can do that, and like massive game changer, because PT Minder was the one, and it came along and it does that so well. It's we don't even think about it.
No,
it literally just says
I actually forget about that part of it.
Exactly. But that's the thing about professionalization of our craft. A very simple, small thing, receiving a text message reminder. We actually, I think mine's got a really nice little, yours does, let's get pumped message in there. But think about it. It's got a time, it's got a place, and it's a reminder that something important's coming up for that person. And I know I've had chats with other coaches about clients not showing up to sessions. Now that's a massive bugbear for you if you're having enough of those. That's a big loss of income. And that's time that you've already spent programming. That's time that energy that you've already committed to that session, being there, showing up. And so to try and mitigate that a little, those text messages are really valuable. All those notifications are really valuable. So simple things like that can have big impact. And so absolutely worth the investment in the tools to do that. But yeah, every single time something like that happens, that you shouldn't think about that as a cost saving for the client. That's a value improvement or a value addition for the client.
For sure.
So your service becomes more valuable.
Yeah. I think that's a good point. As we've been talking about, the more value you can provide, the service is worth what it is that you're giving to your clients. So do you have anything else you want to kind of?
I was just going to talk briefly about the online. I haven't really spoken much about the online stuff. I think the semi-private and the one-on-one stuff is quite in focus at the moment because it's doing well. That part of the business is doing really well at the moment. Just incidentally, referrals have been a big lead to that. I appreciate all clients referring and other allied health professionals. That's a whole nother podcast. You could probably guess that the online side of the business started to grow out of COVID. So primarily face-to-face clients switched across, or I actually started to put more time and effort into being able to offer that as a service. Online space is interesting in that when you talk about scalability, you absolutely have the option to head down that path where the service that you provide is very generalized and you're aiming to hit a lot of people. The technology is there to do that 100%. The more that I've really focused in on what I want my online and what I want my in-person coaching to be, what I want to provide my clients, the more I've steered away from that provided for everyone. I actually really value being able to teach a person something about themselves and something about their body. And I feel like it dilutes, as soon as you start scaling, you really dilute that a lot. And so the relationships are important to me, and that connection, that ability to really jump into someone's world and understand why they do the things that they do and have input into making that better or integrating movement as just something that's a sustainable part of their lives is really important. And so those values come through in all of my different business arms. Yeah, the online, most recently, I've definitely made some decisions about what I want that to be in line with what I'm doing face to face. Yeah.
I think that was like one of the first lines I read in the pre-script course, and I just recently done the hard copy manual came in, and it was like, you program computers and you train athletes.
Yeah.
Or you coach athletes, sorry. And that just hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like exactly what you just said then. It's like, because in the time I was doing some work in like programming and trying to think, oh, maybe I'll do like an Odyssey team training with my training and create a community online and share my sort of passions in that way. But then as I started diving into that, as I was just first launching Odyssey, it was kind of like, this isn't my jam. This isn't what I'm passionate about. And it was like reading that quote of you coach athletes, you program computers. It's like, okay, not that there's anything wrong. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but exactly the point that you were making, like I value so much the one-on-one, in-person, being able to be hands-on with someone, and in that developing the skill set that we've already spoken about and the craft of, I guess that's where that passion really comes from, which is like the craft of coaching, because you can have a business set up online and you can shoot programming through to someone and you can tell them to do single leg things and press this thing over your head. But if they come in and they're like in front of you and if you melt down, you're like, okay, there's a whole different kettle of fish, and you need to be able to do both. You do best of both worlds. And I've always said you can do best of both worlds. We're pretty good on up and down and pick and choose. But yeah, it's interesting to hear you say that. I feel exactly the same way from the push from like COVID and the launch of the online communities to now like settling that down and definitely being like, oh, I have like 2 online clients. And I love my 2 online clients, Max and Aileen. They're my weightlifters. They keep me doing something different during the week and having different conversations, and enough for me to keep it fresh, which is really cool and I enjoy. And same thing, like I have 2 and I can go high level with them. I catch up with them weekly, programming them weekly. Yeah, same thing, like being able to have less to do more, I think in that space for me has been quite good. But yeah, hopefully out of this, like we said, there was something a little bit more practical for them to kind of grasp and start thinking about if they are new to the industry or have been in the industry for a little while and know now that it's cool, there's options for you to dabble into. And don't do everything at once.
No.
Like you said, like,
it's like 7 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Progressing this, and I'm still making changes. I'm still trying stuff. So.
Yeah, you say it all the time. Like it's just data.
Yeah.
Every time you do something, even the session that you had the other week, you're like,
oh my,
the one that was a bit of a shit show. And it was like, data. It's just data. That didn't work. Okay, cool. And then you build on from there. And then the next time you're like, good, I got it. I nailed it. And yeah, that's really cool. So just on that as well, guys, our community is live on Discord. So TCC is up and running. These are the kind of chats that we have all the time in the channel, specific business channel for all the business conversations. So if you listening to this podcast and you want to know what it's all about, jump on the Instagram, or we can leave the link again in the Spotify notes at the bottom or the YouTube notes. Click on the link, have a read, check us out. Come in, join us. We'd love to have you in. You know, everyone is welcome as a coach to come in and ask questions and learn and share resources and network and build that. So we're super excited with, getting this thing off the ground and launching it. And
some great coaches in there, great experiences, lots of resources to tap into.
Yeah, it's been really cool. So hope you enjoyed this one. We're still rolling, 5 down. On the road with 20.
Let's go.
That's the 1%.
We should have a party when we do the 20th one.
Yeah, okay, cool. Done.
So podcast party.
All right. I'll leave. Cool. We'll see you in the next one. See you next time, guys. Peace. Yeah.